Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the session titled Marketing for Web 3.0. My name is Deepak Subramanian. I've been working with Unilever over 27 years, and currently I lead the home care business for South Asia. I'm also on the global advisory board of the W3MA, the world's first Web3 marketing association. And I've been really digging deep into learning about all things linked to Web3 marketing over the last 1 year. And I hope that in this next 10 to 15 minutes, I'm able to share with you some of my learnings and some of the ideas that I have on how Web3 is going to evolve and create fantastic opportunities for all of us. So obviously, there's been a lot of buzz around Web3, and I'm sure many of us are trying to figure out and grapple with what exactly is going on. So what I'm going to do first is to set a couple of foundational definitions, take us through what are the differences between Web 1, 2, and 3, what are some of the key technologies there, and then I'm going to quickly get into some use cases that bring alive the potential that is there, along with some lessons for what does this mean for all of us as marketers. So Web3 is the latest avatar of the evolution of the internet. And as I was reflecting on this, the move from Web 1 to Web 2 to Web 3, in a strange way, also reflects my own growth as a marketer, my own growth as a leader. Web 1 was all the websites that we all used to play with in the 90s. And this was around the time that I had just joined Unilever as a management trainee. And I still vividly remember the days when I used to log on using the telephone connection via my laptop to access Yahoo and MSN. Those were the days. And what we could do in those days was really to read all the information that publishers were putting out. And therefore, Web 1 was primarily characterized by what is called a read-only capability, and where users like me could access content that the publishers would put out. Fast forward a few years later, and what you then see is the evolution of Web 2. And I think the most iconic aspects of this were the development of social media. Web 2 not only had read capability, but it also had the ability for users to create content, write capability. And that is the reason why social media giants like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter really exploded, because of the duality of reading and writing. All of these companies paid the server bills to store all the data, and in return gave us some fantastic products to communicate and share our own personal stories and our own point of view. Hence, in this phase of Web 2, you also saw a high degree of centralization, with a few big companies creating walled gardens and having exclusive access to our data. We then come to Web 3, and Web 3 is what is currently in play, and it's characterized by not only having read capability, not only having write capability, but it also has ownership capability. And I think this is best explained by saying that anybody who is in this ecosystem, whether you are a developer, whether you are an operator, whether you are a creator, whether you are a user, you get an opportunity to have a financial stake in the content or the asset that you are creating or consuming. And hence you have all three capabilities. And typically we are going to see that, unlike in Web 2, you're going to see that this is likely to be a lot more decentralized in this phase, as ownership and control over the IP starts to get into the hands of the members of the ecosystem. More on this in a few minutes, but I hope you can see through the evolution that from Web 1 to Web 2 to Web 3, we move from read only to read and write, and then from read and write to read, write, and own, and moving from very centralized companies running the system to a lot more decentralization. These are basic definitions of what's happening in Web 3 and why this is the next evolution of the internet. Now, what is very important, and this has been one of my reflections, is that Web 3, of course, is a result of a lot of technology change that is happening and a lot of access to new technology. But my fundamental belief is that it's not purely a result of technological advances. This is the output of a lot of cultural shifts and a lot of demographic shifts that are happening in our societies. Let me talk to you about some of these underlying pieces. We are all familiar with this. We all hear about this in the news every day. Clearly, over the years, there has been a loss of trust in institutions. Banks, we all lost a lot of trust in banks when the 2008 financial crisis happened. And over the years, we see that a lot of institutions like governments and media, we start to also lose some trust in them as we see more examples of biased reporting and partisan politics. There is a lot of concern looming on how our data is used, privacy concerns. We saw the Facebook scandal a couple of years ago, and I think nobody summarized it better than the Netflix documentary called The Social Dilemma, which summarized it really, really well with the simple line saying, when something is free, you are the product. There is also growing concentration of power in a few hands, and there's growing inequality in the world, as we can see, and that is creating a lot of social pressure. The algorithms of Web2 institutions favor scale, and there is a long tail of creators who are unable to monetize their creations simply because the algorithms favor scale. Another element, and I personally see this with my own kids, is the emergence of Generation Alpha. Of course, the generation before Generation Alpha, Gen Z as we used to call them, were all digital natives. But the difference is that Generation Alpha not only are digital natives, but they have grown up in a Web2 environment. This means living, chilling, buying things in virtual environments come very, very naturally to this audience. And therefore, as this audience enters the consuming class, we will see the growth and the demand for a lot more immersive experiences, which this generation is completely comfortable with. So you see, either through a couple of societal events or through the emergence of a new generation into the consuming class, we see a lot of underlying shifts, which of course then the technology acts as a catalyst to help fuel some changes. So now we go into a bit more of the detail. One of my struggles trying to learn about Web3 is that there's just so much of jargon there everywhere that I'm really on a quest to look to demystify Web3 and try to make some of these technical things simple to understand. So let me give it a shot. At the foundational level of Web3 are three key technologies: blockchains, smart contracts, and digital assets. And I'm just going to take a minute to explain what each and every one of these is, so that you understand that you don't, as marketers, you don't fully have to understand the detail, but you've got to have a conceptual understanding of how these work. So what is the blockchain? I talked to you about in Web 2, where a lot of the data and the transactions were stored in central servers, largely as private databases. These are databases that could only be accessed by the companies that ran them. They paid the bills to manage the database and gave us free products in return. In Web3, this changes completely, and we have what is called an open data setup. There's a collaborative system where a set of actors come together, not connected. They're all decentralized, using decentralized computers. They come together to create a network, and they validate data and transactions in a manner that is fully transparent to everybody in the database. User data is not fragmented across different platforms. So you don't have different logins for different platforms. And the user data is not proprietary to the owners of the network and is not up for sale anymore. So that's basically what a blockchain is. I've tried to simplify it to its core essence. You can, of course, Google and learn a lot more. And there's a hell of a lot of technical stuff out there. But in essence, this is what it is. On top of this blockchain, then sits a second technology called a smart contract. These are software programs that exist on the blockchain and which automatically execute a transaction without the need for a middleman. This is indeed at the heart of all the disintermediation that is happening in Web3, which I will speak about in a little bit. And finally, on top of smart contracts sits another layer of tech called digital assets. These are pieces of code that signify ownership. And there are a variety of digital assets that are possible. You have stable coins, governance tokens, NFTs, digital twins of real items, etc., etc. What is important for us to understand conceptually is you have a blockchain, you have a smart contract, and you have a digital asset. And it's these three layers that form the technical foundations of Web3. So a couple of examples, and I'm sure we all see this. You have a variety of blockchains: the Ethereum blockchain, the Polygon blockchain, the Solana blockchain, the Cardano blockchain, the Binance blockchain. And as you can see, they all come with their own functionalities, with their own ability to land smart contracts. And over time, I hope to see a lot more interoperability. What does that mean? Is that as a user, I can seamlessly move from one blockchain to the other without having to create different logins and different access pathways. Of course, from the digital asset point of view, I mentioned there are a variety of digital assets. You have NFTs for art. You have stable coins like the USD coin. You have central bank digital currencies which are soon to come. You have tokens like the dot on the Polkadot network, and there are a variety of these examples. As you read and as you encounter these in your lives, get the ability to know what is a blockchain, what is a smart contract, and what's a digital asset. That will help you a lot to navigate through all the technical mumbo jumbo that we see happening in the Web3 space at the moment. And then, as soon as we go through this foundation or what is called the protocol layer, you then have the application layer. And a lot of the applications that are now coming are leveraging these technologies to create value for users. And at the moment, I'm seeing a lot of traction in decentralized finance, in gaming, in arts, in media, in social connections. And this is where you start to see the arrival of platforms like the Sandbox, Decentraland, the Board Apes Yacht Club, or decentralized lending platforms like Aave or Compound. So all of these create use cases for users like you and me, but they are all founded on the technical foundations of blockchain, smart contracts, and digital assets. If you understand this construct, then I think the basics of the Web3 protocol layer and application layer is clear. And now we can then move into the use cases and how do you create value. However, before I go forward, some of you would have already asked, but Deepak, you did not speak about the metaverse. What does this mean? And where is the metaverse in this? And I think this is an important definitional point that I would like all the listeners to be aware of. What is the metaverse? And let's just get back to some foundations. The metaverse is just simply a virtual reality environment which can be accessed anywhere, anytime, where users can interact with computer-generated characters and other users. Now, the important point to note is that the metaverse is not exclusively linked to Web3. You can have the metaverse, a digital immersive experience in a Web2 context or a Web3 context. And I think this is really important for everybody to understand. A Web2 metaverse is a centralized virtual world where the decision is taken by a centralized corporate. Think about Fortnite, think about Roblox. These are all fantastic, immersive virtual reality contexts which are centralized and they operate in a Web2 context. Equally, you can have a metaverse that exists in a decentralized virtual world on the blockchain using smart contracts and leveraging digital assets, using the definitions that I spoke to you about earlier. And that's an example of a Web3 metaverse. So the metaverse is just very simply an immersive virtual reality world. It can exist in Web2, it can exist in Web3. And let's not confuse the fact that the metaverse is equal to Web3. Web3 is where you use blockchain, smart contracts, and digital assets to create interesting use cases. Also, a note to everybody is this is a very new technology, very nascent, and therefore, as is the case with any new technology, be wary of the hype. Web3 currently has a bad name because of the speculative nature of the assets that are currently playing out in Web3. And all of us have seen the spectacular collapse of Bitcoin, of Ethereum as cryptocurrencies. All of us have seen the enormous drop in the volumes and the value of NFTs. And all of us have read about how the number of visitors to spaces like Decentraland are dropping. And that is true, and that is a fact. And that's why, as marketers taking a long view of this, we need to be able to separate the technology, the hype, and the use case. I still remain, as a marketer, as a leader, a deep believer in the underlying technologies of Web3. But I also agree that the initial use cases have not really addressed some of the utility cases. The initial use cases have been all about speculation, making quick buck very, very fast. And of course, since it's not founded on a bedrock of utility, the value comes down very, very quickly. So be aware of the hype and build the knowledge of being able to separate the technology from the hype. That then brings me to the core of my presentation, saying, what does this all now mean for us marketeers? I believe that we're going to see three fundamental shifts in Web3 versus the marketing that all of us have grown up with in Web1 and Web2. The first big shift is going to be that we are all going to shift from serving consumers to building and serving communities. No surprise that I just read, I think a few days ago, that WhatsApp has started to now improve its functionality to help its offerings for communities. Obviously, they're also looking at what is happening and how all of us have thriving communities, our golf community, our gaming WhatsApp group, our work WhatsApp group. We all have these communities running, all linked together by some common passion point or interest point. And as marketeers, we will see a lot more effort being put in to build and serve communities as opposed to serving individual consumers. First change. The second change, and this is comes to the heart of why we are in a boom and bust cycle right now, is that we haven't fully asked the question saying, how do you provide utility? But as marketeers, we will move from selling goods and services to consumers in a Web3 context to providing utility for different communities. And I think the third bit is, as marketeers, we are all used to having control on our brands and providing standardized, controlled brand experiences. The moment you start to talk to a community, and that community has a financial stake in the assets and in the content that is there, then we as brand marketers will have to have confidence and comfort in handing over control to the community to also have a say in how our brand is built and what the brand stands for. So three big fundamental shifts that are likely to happen, in which all of us during the course of the next decade, as Web3 scales up, will have to get far more comfortable with. This will result in the creation of new business models and new revenue streams. I have no doubt about that, that in Web 1, which was a read-only setup, as I explained to you, publishers made money by creating content. In Web 2, a lot of the social media networks made money by controlling the data, often in a very, very centralized way. In Web 3, the moment you have ownership capabilities coming in, users will start to control the networks and the money by voting with their tokens and controlling the data. So I think this is the big change that we're going to have as we move forward. So Web3, from a brand experience point of view, in my opinion, is going to be all about community, utility, and responsibility. And as marketeers, we will have to move from creating a minimum viable product. All of us have heard of MVPs. I believe we will now move to creating minimum viable communities where the access is enabled by NFTs. We will need to provide value to this community by addressing a pain point or by improving their experience. And we will need to feel comfortable to democratize and decentralize. Let holders of our NFTs in the communities play with our campaigns. And through that, we stay true to the fundamental foundational principles of Web3, which is decentralized. I love this quote that in 10 years, what we will see is that our brand will not be valued by the market cap, but by what is called the community cap. And this comes from Benoit Pagotto, who's the founder of RTFKT. If you all don't know what this is, please Google it. This is a company which calls themselves, and I read, a creator-led organization using the latest in game engines, NFT, blockchain authentication, and augmented reality, combined with manufacturing expertise to create one-of-a-kind sneakers and one-of-a-kind digital artifacts. Nike bought them in December 2021 for obvious reasons. And when you go onto their website and see their unique creations that are there, obviously these go for shoe lovers and people who love to project their identity on the basis of what they're wearing. And they therefore create value for this group. What this therefore means as marketeers is we should be asking ourselves the question saying, why is this a problem and how can I use Web3 to solve it? Not what NFT should I drop? And I think I still see a lot of discussion where people are in love with the technology and really saying, what's the next NFT that I should drop? And that's where we run into a problem where we don't have users and we're not able to create value. I like the framework of for which community are you going to create utility, and how do you then use the foundational technologies of blockchain, smart contracts, and digital assets to create value. Now I go into the almost to the last part of my presentation, which is to start to share with you some use cases where I think value is being created. And I've clustered them into 3 or 4 big themes of where Web3 can unlock new business models and new revenue streams. The first one is what I call monetizing fans. This is one of the earliest use cases of Web3. The community here consists of an already existing fan base of brands or franchises, and monetization happens via tokens and collectibles, which gives these fans a deeper sense of engagement and makes them part of a carefully curated and designed experience with people who share their interests. I think great examples here are the NBA Top Shots program, which was a set of collectibles delivered through NFTs for basketball lovers who could then record key moments, important moments in critical basketball matches, or have unique clips about their favorite basketball players, which they could then trade or collect with other members of the community who had similar interests in basketball. Or if you look at what is on this slide called Movieverse, which is the Lord of the Rings, creating a specific immersive experience with NFTs for absolute fans of Lord of the Rings to share and comment and be part of the experience with each another. Or Snoop Dogg entering the sandbox, creating a special space where he could then engage with all his fans. So monetizing fans is probably one of the earliest use cases that we see for Web3 technologies. A second use case is what I call powering the creator economy. There are millions of us who want to be creators, who have a special talent, who have a special capability, and we can use Web3 technologies to create the community and to monetize our creations. It's no surprise that gaming now starts to become one of the big opportunities to create value in Web3. And I call out here as an example, one of the breakthrough games that happened, especially during COVID, as we were all hunkered down in front of our laptops, Axie Infinity. This is a game where you earn more tokens as you play more and as you advance more, and the value of the tokens then go up as more people join and as the game becomes more popular. So these are called play to earn games and are a big departure from the classic model of free to play games. And we will see a lot more of these developments happening, creating value by using some of the underlying technologies of Web3. The third one, which I'm particularly excited about, and this is, I only have partial information here because not all information is all about is out in the public domain, is the whole aspect of rewarding loyalty. Starbucks has recently come up with a Web3 application, Starbucks Odyssey, a next generation loyalty program that they say is based on Web3 technologies. I'm eagerly watching this space to learn more, and I've only picked up a little bit from their press releases, but I truly believe that the mass adoption of Web3 technologies will only happen when big brands like Starbucks get into the game. So this is really, really exciting. Here again, I'm going to read a little bit from what they have put out, and you can see through the language what they're thinking about in terms of the use case. Starbucks has said that Odyssey will transcend the foundational benefits that Starbucks rewards members have come to love. All of us have our Starbucks rewards app and the money that is in it. I'm sure you also have it. And through Odyssey, they're going to unlock digital, physical, and experiential benefits that are uniquely Starbucks. By integrating into the Starbucks rewards ecosystem and grounding the experience in coffee, connection, and community. I love that. Coffee, connection, and community. Starbucks is entering the Web3 space differently than any other brand, whilst deepening members' connection to Starbucks. So what's the space? I think this could be one of the game-changing moves on how you use Web3 technologies to create real value. And the fourth use case that I'm seeing is all about monetizing status. Great example is what happened in the Metaverse Fashion Week earlier this year, where users could experience the brands that they love in a completely different way. Users could get a chance to be the first to buy from new digital creators who created designs first in a digital world, and whoever had access through NFTs to that design could then soon have physical duplicates of these designs, and a nice use case of how you create status through ownership. A lot of the luxury brands are also trying the same, be it Burberry, be it Louis Vuitton, or be it Gucci. And I believe that the scarcity and exclusivity thinking that is critical to luxury can actually benefit a lot using Web3 technologies. So key messages, as you can see, is that this is early days. The technology is not mature. There is a hype cycle on, but at the same time, some long-term sustaining use cases are coming. And it all comes down to how do you create utility for a certain community. And I talked to you about how you can monetize fans, how you can reward loyalty, how you can create a creator economy. All of these, I believe, are going to be legitimate use cases that will stand the test of time and create value. Critical for all of us as marketeers to constantly learn. There's a lot of reading material out there, but often I find it very, very technical. So I would supplement the reading with learning by doing. And number two is learning by connecting with people, speaking to the experts. And I'm going to therefore conclude with just a shout out to the group of people that I work with in the Web3 Marketing Association. As I said, W3MA is the world's first marketing community solely focused on Web3. This is a not for profit organization with the sole objective of helping brands succeed in Web3. The desire of this group is to build a agency marketplace, a talent marketplace, and a community of practice, advocating for standards and training a next generation of marketeers on the potential of Web3. I wish such an organization had existed when I started my journey trying to understand Web 2. But being part of this group now as an advisor, I'm absolutely determined to make sure that the next generation of marketers have all the support they need to really create fantastic value and irresistible brand experiences in a Web3 ecosystem. So that therefore brings me then to the end of my session. I hope you found this session useful. I covered some of the foundational definitions, the implications for marketers, some use cases, and finally a call out for all of us to keep learning and to keep sharing. Thank you all for your time, and I welcome your ideas and your feedback to what I have shared today. See ya.